Truth. Lively discussions about business, marketing, and personal development for small business owners. No hype, just help.
Dude, I love this video of us.
You did a great job with it.
It was
You did
awesome, right? We got an intro, guys. Super, super excited about an intro and a glass.
Happy Monday and tea. We're always happy to have tea, and an intro just makes it better. It's Monday. We have a lot to talk about today, don't we?
Yes, we do. And before we get started, just a quick reminder: every week we got our wheel of Our wheel of winners.
The Wheel of Names.
Wheel of names. So, guys, every person that comments on any of our shows, specifically here, Be the Naked Truth /live, actually gets entered into the Wheel of Names. And on Friday, we share a fantastic prize with you. Last week, we had Donna Bloom, who won 15-minute consultations. So congrats, Dana. And we have Michael Stephen Foster says the bear beam and buck. And I don't know what he's saying. And we have Muhammad Dan from Twitter saying good evening. It is good day. Good day to you, sir. So fantastic. Comment, enter, join us, because we have so much to talk about today that we are going to have a timer to keep us on point.
we don't have enough technology, so let's have more. Let's just have more. Right? Yeah. Someday my goal is there just be robots that represent us, and we just talk, and the robots. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I just read an interview. I watched a video about how easy it is to do deep fake. So maybe
deep fakes.
Deep fakes, yeah. Might do
fascinating, terrifying, all at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, so our first one is, what is our first one?
Our first one is, we always sort of tend to do this, right? We go to stuff related to the pandemic. So one of the articles that I found over the weekend that I thought was really interesting was an article suggesting that, of course, everybody is being affected by the pandemic, but maybe more than anyone else, millennials might be getting sort of like the extra shaft from the pandemic. And I thought so first of all, I think it is important, like, of course, everyone is suffering. And sometimes I wonder if this is just a way, if it's almost like clickbait, but I'm like, no, there was some stuff brought up in this, right? That, like, first of all, they were already, because of where they were at timing wise, they sort of got whacked by the 2008 situation. And so it hurt their ability to get jobs and stuff. So they're sort of already behind from that. And now if they are investing, their portfolio's taking a hit again, and they're not being able to work yet again. And so the article sort of made it seem like they're really getting whacked by this, maybe in a way that is a little worse than some of us. What do you think about that?
Fascinating. So I'm actually... There's no voice? How is there's no voice if you heard how I called it? So Muhammad from Iraq is joining us on Twitter. On Twitter. And says no voice? Why no voice? I hear you, you hear me. Let us know if you hear us, because that'll be very, very interesting. To know that you are hearing us and joining us and all that jazz. So millennials is interesting, right? Because it's a different culture, right? Isn't it also kind of like the way they're talking about things, and the way they're approaching things, and the way we're supposed to interact with them? Do you think it's a real issue, or do you think this is just one of those millennial, let me find out, stuff that we actually need to, not really pay attention to?
Well, so what the article said is that their specific, nowadays they can track everything, right? So their employment went down 16% in March and April. And so when you think, there's this weird thing that I think is interesting is millennials are now, like, your first millennials are now approaching 40.
Wow.
Right? Like the ones born at the beginning. And so, like, like if you got hit by the 2008 situation, and so you put off getting married or you put off having kids because you were worried about finances, and now you just maybe felt like you were getting where you, and now this, and you think there could be some things that are really sort of, but again, we're all having challenges, but I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that, for so long, everyone was just down on millennials, right? Millennials are this, millennials are that.
Right.
And so if anything, I just thought it was nice to see that someone was taking a look at how, like, it's not all their fault, right? That was ridiculous from the beginning, but that maybe they, they're having their own struggles, which I think should be honored and considered. So we're out of our 2 minutes, aren't we? All right, let's move on.
Okay, next one is
also related to the pandemic. Could all this stuff that's happening, like, is it going to cause a decay in culture? Like, if the stuff we've talked about, if companies don't bring people back to the office and they go to work from home forever and stuff, what are the trickle-down effects of that? What happens when massive amounts of people start working remotely? And what happens to your, like, introverts like me? We're going to be cool, right? Because we were already like cool. But what happens to your extroverts? What happens to people who don't get the human connection the way they're used to getting it? What happens when workplace civility potentially, you think, well, they're not even, but you're still working together. What happens if workplace civility goes into a strange sort of void? Because, we already see how people are much more willing to be rude and unkind to each other over the internet.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens when workers don't have to be in each other's presence anymore? Will that spread to how they treat each other? Like, will there be these cultural things that come out of this that, again, I think we're always reacting to cultural shifts. We're almost never proactive about thinking about it and getting ready for it. So that's why it was interesting to me.
Interesting. So, I think about kind of like, so there's two ways to think about this, right? So one is who says that all your social life have to happen in the job place, right? So maybe you work remotely and you finish everything in like 4 hours, 5 hours, and now you have the other half part of the day to actually socialize, and you don't have to socialize with people you work with, because who said these are your friends, right? So you could socialize in the other part of your day with your family, with your real friends. You can go out, have a drink. It reminds me kind of like Europe, right? Work is done and we're done, and now we're being humans and we're socializing. So in that aspect, I think this is fantastic shift, because you work at home, you get your work done, and you're done. And now you go to the human side of things, and you don't have to hang out with people just because you're in the same space working together. That doesn't mean you're friends.
Right.
So that's one part of the thing. But the other one is like gaming. If you're thinking gaming is people who spend so much time on the computer gaming with people in an MMA multiplayer settings, you build relationships and friends like that. And if you're an asshole, you're not going to be invited to play anymore. You're not going to be part of the game. So if you're an asshole online and you start being mean online, then people are just not going to work with you, and it's easier to see much faster, right? You might be like bullshitting your way in the office because you're giving the donuts and you're doing the stuff, but right, and people can't escape you because you're in your physical space. But online, I can be like, look, I don't want to interact with you except for emails because you suck.
Yeah,
Right?
it could be. It could be. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. Well, here's one of the good things that's coming out of this already is this idea of knowledge commons. Did you see that article that I linked for us? So like people are taking it on themselves to create these structures for helping other people accumulate important knowledge and information, right? So people are creating like Slack groups and spreadsheets and different kinds of things to help educate people about how to handle the coronavirus and how to handle things like how do you need to get if you've never had to get unemployment benefits before, like all the things that are coming out of it. There's even there's in the article, there's one thing that says that students are rebuilding their universities within Minecraft. Like there's all these different creative ways that people are trying to preserve, the sharing of information and knowledge. And, I just think that's great. I think always there's a silver lining, right? And that's a good example of how we do a lot of bad things, but there's always people doing good things too.
It's true. And when this whole thing started, remember all the free courses and free resources that people just gave access to? Some of them were doing it in a way that wasn't very authentic and aligned, where they're like, hey, here's access for all my courses and all the information to help you level up your game, but only for the next 2 months. After that, it will be my regular fee of $197 a month. So it was a great way. Grant Cardone did that, right? So it's a great way to kind of like get people in, get used to you, and then monetize it. And it was a little sleazy, but there were other people who were just sharing information freely. I still get classes from Krav Maga. So it's like, okay, now you can't go to the gym. Here are all the instructions of how you can work and improve at home. So that already happened at the beginning. It's fun to see that people are stepping up. But I think it creates a different issue. The different issue is like, now a lot of people are expecting a lot of stuff for free, right? And so if you're a university or an educational place or a place that actually wants to monetize your expertise and your knowledge, it's harder to make people appreciate the value that you add and pay for it, because everything else is it's free out there.
Yeah.
Which brings us
That's
back
been
to,
ongoing though, hasn't it? I mean, I get contacted on a regular basis from people who want me to tell them about hypnotism, and because there's so many YouTube videos and so many blog articles and so many things, they feel comfortable reaching out to me and they want to pick my brain. And I'm like, well, really, you should train. And they're like, oh, I don't want to pay for training. So they want to, and I get people who literally want to become hypnotists and do it for money, but they don't want to pay for the training. And I'm like, that's not really how it works, but maybe that's going to be how it works eventually. Like maybe all information is just going to become open
but it's
source.
already out there, right? Like, so one of my biggest arguments for connection, not content, is that we already have all the information that we need online, but people are still stuck, right? They still don't know what to do. You have the best example with people like, here's Unfold, and they're like, I can't do shit with it. Right? You're like, here's the resources, go and apply them, and they can't apply them.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because we don't learn like that. And so maybe the shift is from information to content to access, which is
well, that's why I've said for years now. I used to, when I was younger, I always bought into that idea that knowledge is power. And then I got to a point where I was like, no, it's not. Like you can have libraries full of books, and if you don't know what to do with the knowledge, you're no more powerful than you were before you had the knowledge. I think that's one of the big myths out there, is that knowledge is power.
Well, so I think knowledge it's just what you're talking about is information. So information by itself doesn't do shit. But if you know how to apply the information, now you got wisdom, and wisdom is power. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we have this like dumbification of like scrolling, right? We're just scrolling, and not applying and integrating and actually putting it to use. Which is why I think universities have to switch to the application model rather than the memorization model, right? Like all the information is already out there. I don't need to memorize it.
Yeah.
And
what do you do when you have multiple generations of professors, of educators who that's not how they teach? Like, how do what do you do to switch that? That's a pretty fascinating.
So I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who came to learn how to do Facebook ads from this guy who's a master at doing it. And her first thing was like, he's fantastic at doing it for other people. He doesn't know how to teach.
Can't teach it. Yeah.
So it was all over the place, and people were mad and asking for a refund, and right. And so
that's one of my big value propositions when I talk with leads about training with me on stuff, is I'm like, I'm a former teacher. I know how to teach stuff. And a lot of people in my industry don't. They may be awesome at doing it, but that doesn't mean they know how to teach it. Yeah. It's a big thing.
It is. And so having all this information online doesn't necessarily help people. Right? We actually need to do stuff. And maybe that's why you're seeing challenges being amazingly profitable right now. Because gurus stepped out of, behind the podium and now are doing lives and interacting with people in real time and going like, let's apply this together. So that might be.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe.
We're changing. We're shifting, which is
So
fantastic.
since we're speaking about education and knowledge and all that, let's hit the next thing, which is with all of this stuff going on and the uncertainty of whether colleges will be opening in the fall or not and all that. Now people, this is very sensible to me, people are just outright questioning, should I even go back to college or should I just take a year off?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we should have taken a year off anyway. Being an Israeli who goes to the military, right? I'm like, and especially since like here, college is such a big deal that you have to know what you're majoring in, and you have to, right? It kind of like decides your future. And if
right.
you don't know yourself yet because you're, a grasshopper that just finished high school, then
Yeah, but what if you're already in? What if you've done your freshman year or your sophomore year and you're in and still with it being so different than what you were doing and you're thinking, well, I'm going to go back and half of my classes may be online and half may be in person and all this different stuff. Are you better off just saying, you know what, can you just give me a year? Can I take a year off and hold my spot? Like, could there be value in that? And if you did do it, if you took a year off, what would you do? Like, how would you make use of it? You don't want to just go sit around and burn a year,
Dude, there's first thing, Americans, get a passport. Get a passport, travel the world, and get to know different ways of thinking and being and living. Because, the world that you grew up in, not necessarily the only world that you can live in. So I would say first thing is travel. Second thing is, why not apprentice, right? Like, remember the back days of how you became a master? You would go and spend years apprenticing for someone else and actually gaining the skills and knowing whether you know. So why not do that? Like, okay, you think you want to be a hypnotist? Go work with a hypnotist for like 5 months. Figure out, oh, I like it, I don't like it. You don't like it, go work for, movie theater for a while. Go
right.
be, like, you have so much time to experience what you would like to do that you don't have to decide. My biggest thing, and like my son's dad used to hate me for it, but he's like, why would you get that job if you know nothing about it? And I was like, because I want to learn. And he's like, yeah, but why would they pay you if you know nothing about that job? And I was like, because I'm a fast learner and I'm going to do this, so I get paid to learn.
Well, and what about this? What if the government formed a national service corps? That's what the article originally that I was referencing talked about, is what if they formed a national service corps and all these young people went in, especially now with all of the damage that's taking place and all of the destruction that's taking place, even more now, like if we're going to have a way for people to feel purposeful and productive and feel like they're contributing and that they're part of something good again, we're going to need young people in particular to step up and really, this is kind of sad, but I think be a role model for others who are really older than them, and we should have been the role models, right? But clearly that didn't work so good. And let them like reinvest in the feeling that they matter in America.
Yeah.
Because the clear messaging to them is that they don't. Like.
Yeah. It's very interesting. This country, I was just having a conversation with someone in Israel that they're creating a new platform, and I'm going to be in the beta testing and all that stuff. And I was like, why are you guys, it's an engagement platform for live video. And I'm like, why are you guys not focusing on Israeli YouTubers? Like, why are you only talking about American ones? And I was like, is that because the Israeli culture is not there with what you want to produce and stuff like that? And they're like, no, the market in the US is much bigger, so we want to understand how people here interact with each other. And I'm like, yeah, but there's no engagement here. Nobody wants to talk to each other. Right? They want to create videos, they want to be an influencer, but they don't actually want to talk and build relationships with people. It's a very, separated culture. And so if you're talking about people wanting to feel like they belong, because look at the suicide, depression, right? Heartaches that are happening because people don't feel like they belong. Do you think the government is the one that's going to make you feel like you matter? I don't know. I think it's a cultural thing where you guys this is my
Are we
space.
like talking to ourselves today, or are people leaving comments? What is going on?
They are leaving comments. The comments are but the comments are not applied to what we're talking about. So for example, Michael Foster says, check out Iris. Uh,
I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
I do not know what that is.
All right,
but it
we'll
seems
look
like,
into it and we'll come back in another time maybe.
Yeah, so I think he's talking about, I don't know what it is. Brilliant invention. I don't know what iris is.
So, talking about brilliant things, here's our other glimmer of hope from the weekend, right? Is
Yes.
the
SpaceX.
oh, you got him?
SpaceX?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this is super awesome. So
So
SpaceX,
cool.
yeah, they're actually put an astronaut on NASA. Launched the first astronaut for NASA on a historic test flight. Super cool. And what was really, really exciting about this is, first of all, Elon Musk. One of the things that is amazing about Elon Musk is how involved and knowledgeable he is in the companies that he runs. He can tell you the science, the math, the application
Yeah.
behind it. He's not kind of like hey, I'm a visionary CEO. I know nothing about what it takes to actually build this thing, but you guys
Right.
go build it and I take all the fame and glory. He really is invested. He really does know. He can explain the parts of the ship and how they come together and what it means and all that jazz. And so he was super excited and really emotional when they put an astronaut in a NASA. I think
To
they
put him
got
on
it
the
to
space station,
yeah,
right?
space
They
station,
sent him
yeah.
up and got him to the space station.
Which is super super cool. And so then he had an interview with can't remember who interviewed him and asked him, and he goes like, "What do you think? Like, how do you think private air travel, space travel, can affect NASA and governments and the world? Like, where do you see the commercial part of it?" And I love how he said, he goes like, "Yeah, we would love NASA and all the other government agencies to be our clients, of course." And he said he thinks where space transportation will become a viable business is not in just moving people around, but also cargo and
Yeah.
having to, if we're going to settle Mars, right, there's going to be stuff that you need to move from Earth to Mars. Why are you laughing? You're like, nobody's going to settle Mars.
It makes it. We didn't plan for this, but I have to bring up. It makes me think of the other thing that happened. I don't know if it was. I think it was Friday. Is the new Netflix show Space Force came out?
Oh, I haven't watched
Oh
it,
my
so,
God!
yeah.
And it's Steve Carell.
Is
and,
it funny? Because I'm like, is he really funny? I don't know.
Oh, he's funny, and just it has so many good people. It has Steve Carell, and it has John Malkovich, and it has the guy who's like the new hot thing. He just got his own special. I can't think of his name right now. Just Johnny Yang, the comedian. And he's on there, and it's just like it totally is constantly taking pot shots at like the bureaucracy and incompetency of government, like when you get big agencies and how like they can't get things done right and all that, and how like
Oh,
and
that's what it is.
yeah, it's that, it's part of that, but it's and so the whole idea is that they want to put a boots on the moon. They want to put a base on the moon, and he's the general who has to oversee the launching of the Space Force. And he's a general. He doesn't know anything about space travel or any of that. And so there's times where like his ideas are just so ridiculous. Like it's almost like going back to when he was Michael Scott on The Office, like where you're like, oh, that's terrible. It's cringeworthy, but it's a funny show.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff where you go, oh man, like there's probably some real conversations that get had like that, I would bet,
Where people are saying like silly shit and,
Yeah, and the scientists are sitting there just wanting to probably murder themselves, like because they're like, oh my God, you just don't even know what you're talking about. The Elon Musks, right? And they get it, and then the other people think they are smart.
Isn't that amazing though, that the person who's leading the charge on all that stuff actually knows what he's talking about? He's not kind of like this, he has these huge, amazing visions, and he's making them happen. It's kind of like a Star Trek person in the making, right?
Yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
like, yeah, we're gonna have.
He's a fascinating individual. I think it's interesting too how I can't imagine what it's like to have all that on your plate and all of the negativity that comes your way, because we have this cultural thing now where we just expect everyone who's up in those achievement areas to be perfect. And like,
Right.
he's a human being, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way he's going to be perfect all the time. And people are just vicious with him sometimes.
Yeah.
They're so vicious.
Yeah.
And it's another kind of thing that we're all struggling with, I think, in our current culture. But
Yeah. It's I love the fact that he doesn't listen to anyone, and we have Tesla, and we have SpaceX, and like we have all these things that everybody's, it's not gonna work, and we have the batteries and the roofs, and getting off the grid and actually making your, like, I love it. It's like, okay, it's not
very
gonna
cool.
work, we're gonna do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so now he's taking his company from California to Texas, because California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they because they didn't allow him to open the factory, right? And he opened against the what do you call that, like
Oh,
against
the
law,
like, yeah.
right? Because they're like, you can't open the factory because of COVID, and he's like, yes, we can, and he did. And then they came and he's like, if you need to arrest anyone, arrest me, because I'm the one telling all these employees to be here. We're just gonna work more carefully. And California said you cannot, and he said, okay, fine, I'll move it to Texas. And which I love. It's kind of like, okay, fine, you don't want me, taking my business elsewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
that's your prerogative, right?
And Texas is big enough, and there's plenty of space to do all that jazz. Which he actually was talking about doing that tube. Remember the tube thingy?
Yeah, and they shut him down on that.
So he wants to do that between Austin and Houston.
Nice.
Which is really interesting, because they wanted to do a fast train between Dallas and Houston.
Yep.
And the company that shut it down was Southwest, because for them, the triangle thing, Dallas, Austin, Houston, is very profitable.
Yeah.
And so they shut it down. And now, I don't know, Elon's going to come in and be like, here's my money, here's the bullet thing, we're running. I love the guy. I'm a fan, girl.
I noticed.
For me, smart is very sexy. And he is smart. Not sexy, but very smart. Super smart.
All right, we're almost out of time. What are we doing?
Okay, we're going to say hi to Stuart. Hey, Stuart.
Stuart ONeil's coming in. Cowboy in space. Stuart ONeil could have been an astronaut.
He could have been an astronaut. No?
No.
Oh, you muted yourself again. Here we go. Hold up. Let me do this. There you go. Hey, Stuart.
I got a phone call trying to come in. I'm trying to block it without blocking you. Damn.
I'm like, stop interfering with our.
All right. Well, if you got a way of switching me back, I must be on your master board.
We got you. We see you. We hear you. Just do your thing.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Information means nothing without a teacher to point you towards the important parts of it.
Yeah.
That can be a guru. That can be me on certain subjects. That's EFOT on subjects. And without the judgment to tell what is actual information and what isn't, that's, a significant issue. Now, switch to Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a brilliant dude. Love him when he's talking about running his companies. He knows absolutely nothing about being social or about making his companies socially responsible, yet his concepts are, their actions are not. His opening of the proposed opening of that particular place was in unsafe conditions. Yeah, these guys would have come back to work to save a $30, $40 an hour job.
I disagree with you. I don't think it was unsafe. I think it was fine.
None of us were there, so none of us can really know because we weren't there.
According to the people that were inside, there was no social distancing. There was no masks, none of that. Elon doesn't believe in a lot of things. So, okay, take him for what he is, and he's brilliant. I love him. I love his products. I just have to, again, be judgmental about information, because part of your information is incorrect. he changed his mind about the move out of California. He's still got a major factory here and he's not moving, as far as I know.
Yeah. And time will tell, right? Time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I wanted to say something about something else, and you guys went through so many subjects so
That's
fast.
what we warned you, Stuart. We said we had a lot today. You got to keep notes, brother. You got
I
to.
wasn't here in the very beginning.
And this is
I've
only
had my
half of what
hand
we
up.
wanted.
And I've had my hand up for a while.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got
All
2
right,
out of
well,
3.
I apologize for that. Okay.
It's all good. And so tomorrow we're actually going to bring you something super, super amazing. If you've heard me talk about the competitive plugin to ClickFunnels, you can put everything that ClickFunnels does on your website. This is one of the best tools that I found out there. We're going to bring in the developer himself, and we're going to show you how you can create a funnel on your own website, like super quickly. It's going to be geeky. It's going to be techie, but it's going to be fascinating and awesome. And as a reminder, all of you guys who have commented today and engaged with us today, your name is going to be added to this wheel that we are going to be spinning this Friday. So hop on in, comment, engage, share, let us know what's going on so that we can interact with you. Right, Paul?
Yes, we love it. We love it. We want you here. We want you interacting. Most of all, we want you to be part of the gang. So I know it's easy to sit and watch, and that's what I even do a lot of the time, but we really do. We want to know what you think, and we want to know what your questions are, and we want to stay. We're not just trying to have a show where we get to listen to ourselves talk the whole time. We like to listen to ourselves talk some of the time, but
Exactly. So the place for you to come and join us is this every day, BeTheNakedTruth.com/live. We really, really appreciate our viewers coming in and engaging with us. And that's what we're going to see in our intro. So until tomorrow, until tomorrow, check out our new amazing outro and we'll see you.
Happy Monday.
Not this one. Ba, 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 ba. This is our amazing.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, come back and spend more time with us. You could be on the broadcast sharing your thoughts. We hang out live
Are we still
Monday through
live,
Friday
guys?
at 2 p.m. Eastern at www.BeTheNakedTruth.com/live.